instantly. There we go. It did right there. Finally. Hallelujah. Tweet away. Check Twitch. Make sure. Hey, cool. Everything's updated the way it's supposed to today. That makes me happy. Or that means the game's gonna suck. And everybody's gonna die.
Well, I'm halfway there at this point.
Well, see, Jen's, the pressure's off of her because she has a character, and so I could just make the Wednesday game the new campaign, and she'd still be alive. Oh, hey. Question is, should we go live early? Nah. I am coming for you, Swarmzy. Well, what do you know about that? Welcome everybody to Forge at the Table. I am your Dungeon Master, Charles, and these are the players, Jen, Connor, and of course, Jeannie. We are here for episode 3 of Adventure Weekly. This is actually Jen's second episode, but it is the third technical episode of the show. We're going to kick the tires and get this wagon rolling here in just a second, but as per usual, I've got my typical spiel I want to go through. As everybody here knows, we use D&D Beyond solely as the only thing for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. If you haven't been over there to D&D Beyond, I highly recommend you go over there and check it out. We are not sponsored, affiliated, or so. Well, I guess we are kind of associated with some of them. But we are not paid. I'm not being paid to say this fun stuff about them. It's just absolutely a beyond amazing website. Ooh, I worked it in again. For those of you that are new to the channel, you can find out everything you need to know about our channel down below in the doobly-doo, the Colville, whatever the hell you want to call it. There is information on how you can get involved in the games, how you can become a player, or just spend some of your hard-earned greenbacks, cash, pesos, moolah, gold bars, rusted buttons, and belly button lint to have an effect on what happens during the game. This is just one of many games that we have going on here on the channel. This is our every Sunday game. Last night, if you missed it, at 7 p.m. Eastern, last night was The Long Road Episode 7. Starting next week, The Long Road will be shifting from a 7 p.m. Eastern Time start to an 8 p.m. Eastern Time start. So it will be an hour later for everybody. Makes everything easier all the way around. We also have, starting on April 2nd, we have The Shifting Sands, which also has Connor down here. He'll be in there along with 3 other brave souls as we go adventuring in the area of Aethel known as Rhea. This Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, don't miss the wrap-up to our first ever one-shot where Jens and 3 other folks try to get that woman to stop crying. Not sure it's gonna happen. Sometime this week there will be a one-shot, a pop-up game happening. I'm not going to say when. If you want to know when that pop-up game is going to happen, you have to be in our Discord chat, which is down below, or following us on Twitter. I will post up what day it's gonna be happening, and then roughly about 8 to 10 hours later, we will go live for 2 to 4 hours of crazy off-the-wall gaming. We did that last Friday. If you want to go have a look and see what that's all about, and then of all importance, this Saturday, the 24th, at what is that going to be? 11, 12? Is that 12 Eastern? 9 Pacific. 12 Eastern, 9 Pacific. A Walk Beyond begins. This is a special extended campaign where I'll be running a game for 5 of the wonderful moderators over there at D&D Beyond. It's going to be a very sporadic campaign because we have players from the UK, we have players from here in the States, and we have one player who's actually going to be playing from, I believe, midnight to 4 a.m. his time over there in Singapore. But tune in for that one. That's going to be a rockin' game. Subsys Cyber there will be involved in that one, and it'll be a rip-roaring good time every time we're able to get together. So again, my name is Charles. I'll be the Dungeon Master. This is Adventure Weekly. This was going to be an episodic campaign, but no, it's just going to be a flat-out campaign. So I'm going to go around the horn, let these people tell you who they are, who they're playing, and any other useful bits of information about them that they want. Yes, I am wearing the misplaced titty tassel, but we're not going to discuss that. Go ahead, Jenny. I've only been married to her for 4 or 5 days, but
20 years.
Yeah, Jeannie.
4 or 5 days. I'm Jeannie. I'm playing Sarah Thran. She is a fire genasi and also a paladin, and hopefully we can save Killaresh tonight. But we'll see.
Jens.
Hello, I am Jens, and I am a follower or subscriber. I am a subscriber now, and I am playing Leandra Nightfall, a half-elf rogue, who has also jumped down into the pit with Killaresh.
And Connor.
I'm Connor. I'm less plague-bearing today, so that's good. And I will be playing Killaresh Redfist for the next 5 minutes until he dies.
Oh, let's hope that doesn't happen. I really
I hope not
that
to. I'm really enjoying Killer Ash so far.
We
Well-
don't want that to happen.
And as I once said, or have said many times, I'm Charles. I'm your Dungeon Master. I will be the Dungeon Master for about 85 to 90% of what you see on this channel. On the 29th, I want to let everybody know, please tune in that Thursday. I know it's going up against the mighty folks over there at Critical Role. I am going to be stuck here in the studio producing a game that one of our subscribers, our very first subscriber, as a matter of fact, Stumpomatic, Todd, is going to be running. He's going to be running on the 29th a one-shot, and then if that works out, after that he will start running a campaign for Curse of Strahd. If you are interested in playing in a campaign every Saturday night, I think it's going to be 8 p.m. Eastern onward, every Thursday night. I believe that Stumpomatic said he could handle up to 5 players, so if you're interested in getting in on that, look down below. I will be producing the games, but I will also have Critical Role up on one of my 3 monitors so I can watch it, because I'm not going to miss it. So anyways, I'm going to take a second here. I'm going to get this cough drop in my mouth because for some damn reason, there's a lot of dust in the air. A lot of dust in the air here. It's springtime in the Rockies.
I mean springtime.
Yeah. All right, King, you sneak on out. You go have fun playing your game. Hopefully you don't lose another character and get kicked again once again out of the house of the big brother. So whence we left off, our brave adventurers had been hired in some form or another to go down into the sewers beneath the walled mining town of Winterhelm, far up in the northern mountains of the Wildwood Reach. We last left them. They had been down. Hold on. I'm getting some weird feedbacky kind of stuff here. Okay, that should take care of it. When we last left off, Leandra had met up with Cirith and Killer Ash. Killer Ash and Cirith were in the process of looking for what it was that was destroying and driving away the business of a small dwarf, who the owner of the Inn of the Dancing Cup, while in the sewers and doing such. Sorry, Rainy, I live in the Rocky Mountains, and yes, we are getting snowed on. We've been getting snowed on all weekend. So anyways, back to the game. They all met up in the sewers beneath the inn and began following some rather dark fey looking creatures. This led them to a junction where they realized that they were lost. This junction, however, crossroads within the sewers, had a man-made tube of sorts that led down. The 3 of them deciding that it would be the wiser move to go down inside. They discovered that beneath them, in an older part of the sewer, there were 3 of these creatures that were about to make their way up. Killer Ash, being brave, jumped into the tube, slid down on top of them, and landed square in the middle of the 3 of them. A battle ensued, where in the middle of it, Leandra, fearing the death of her newfound friend, also launched herself down the tube. And at the last minute, realizing that she was a bit short-sighted in her thinking and was about to land on top of Killer Ash, she acrobatically launched herself out of the tube and missed him, landing to see the battle come to a bit of a close as the 3 figures sliced and diced Killer Ash, 2 of them pulling their long, slender daggers out of his back. And as they did such, Leandra stood there quietly on the edge, watching Killer Ash fall into the muck, into the gloomy water of the sewer. Cirith, having not gone down yet, let out a gasp that echoed down as she stayed at the top edge of the tube, looked down and saw her friend Killer Ash and her newest friend Jens down below her. So we open with not Jens, with Leandra standing there looking over, roughly about 5 feet away in the stinking water. This water, again, isn't flowing as fast as the water was up above you. This part, and as you look around, you can see, again, about 10 feet down, you can see this glowing, odd orb of light. It doesn't emit like fire, and it definitely has kind of an arcane pulsing to it. And it does hang just above kind of a rusted iron sconce that had been placed a long time ago. You can tell by looking around at the walls and all that before Killer Ash sinks into the muck and the mire. You can look around and see that this part of... Yeah, get my head in the game, exactly. You can look around and see that this part of the sewer is significantly older than that up above. The stones are different, the crafting's different, and a lot of the stonework down here has actually begun to crumble and fall kind of apart. Bits of rock from the ceiling. You can see where it looks like moisture is dripping through above. But the thing that has your attention the most right now, that thing that is kind of bearing down on you or bearing into you, is the fact that laying now in about 4 or 5 inches of water is the great half-orc bard, Killer Ash Redfist, who bravely slid down in one of the more amazing feats you've seen in your brief life. However, it cost him because he put himself severely out of position. He's now laying kind of slumped. There's a bit of a rock, one of the bigger pieces of the ceiling, sometime in the past had fallen, dislodged, and slammed into the water. The water isn't moving that much. There's a slight bit of flow to it, but it's enough to where you can see dark chunks of this and globs of that slowly moving along. Some of them getting caught up in the folds of Killer Ash's clothing, getting like up against his boot and lodging there. But he lands kind of slumped, kind of laid over on this big chunk of stone that has fallen sometime in the past out of the ceiling, and you can see his head kind of lull over and his eyes roll back up in his head. You can see the dark liquid, his blood seeping out and forming a slow moving puddle that as it puddles up and the flow continues, it begins to slowly kind of drag out, and so you can see little rivers of kind of a greenish red blood as it begins to be swept away. Cirith, you're again up at the top of the tube. You're looking down and you can see the rungs built into the stonework going down, and you can see the slime, and you can actually see the slide marks left by both Killer Ash and Leandra as they slid down the tube into the water and into the battle below you. You can see Killer Ash, and as you're standing up there looking, you see him kind of crumple down and come to rest over or onto that rock. The sight doesn't seem good. The last thing that you saw of Leandra was at the very end. It looked like she was going to allow herself, strangely enough, to fall forward, and it looked like her head came out of the tube first, but with a flick of her toe, you saw her launch herself across as she came out over on the side. You didn't hear her land, and you haven't seen her do anything as of yet. The 3 creatures that Killer Ash slid down into the older sewer to engage are all standing there, and you notice them all 3 look away from Killer Ash's crumpled form and slowly begin to look into the direction that you saw Leandra launch herself. Leandra, as you're standing there kind of crouched down, as I described before, kind of like Spider-Man when he lands on something, one hand down, one knee down, kind of in a crouch, ready to go. You see Killer Ash laying there, and you see these 3 Fey-like creatures. Again, their features are very tight. They don't have noses. They have slits where normally a nose would be. They have large, inky black almond eyes, all except for the bigger of the 3. 2 of the smaller ones have hoof or cloven feet. The bigger one, the one that has the reddish sheen to his eyes, is wearing actual boots and appears to have feet like most normal humanoids would probably have. They all slowly spin on you, and as they spin and face you and see you, your presence isn't enough to dissuade them from doing anything, and you see these slow, evil, wickedly curved grins exposing black teeth kind of spread across their faces. And at this point, we're gonna open this bad boy with initiative.
I got a negative 15.
These dice suck. I swear to God, these dice suck.
I thought you
Good,
changed
we
them
need
up.
that.
Well, they did good last night. They didn't do good last night on initiative. So we're gonna start with Leandra. Killer Ash is not gonna do shit. So, what'd you get?
I'll just be last, yeah.
10.
A 10. All right, and Cirith.
17.
17. Wow. All righty. Let me get this open. Where's my mouse? There it is. Let me pop over here. All righty. So, Cirith, anger kind of wells up from the tips of your toes, rolling up through your ankles, your calves, and filling your chest with a mix of anger, adrenaline, and a certain urgency. You can see, even though you're 50 feet up, there is light, again, kind of emanating in this slow, arcane yellow pulse from somewhere off to the right side of the exit of the tube that you're looking down. And you can see, as you look down, you see these pools, one kind of off to the right side of Killer Ash and one coming kind of off to the left and behind, where apparently his wounds are at. But you see this pool of darkened, viscous blood basically seeping slowly out of Killer Ash, and you can see it begin to form reddish green rivulets that begin to disappear down the slow moving river of awful and other things that you don't want to think about. But there's a definite urgency coursing through your body. You've managed to get the jump on anything and react fast. What exactly are you going to do?
Can I actually see any of the creatures? Because I know
You can see all three of them. You can see, like I said, as I described, they slowly. You saw where Leandra kind of did the toe flick thing, and then very much launched herself across and out of your vision. And it's in that direction that you see the bigger one, and you can see very well the lights there. You can see the two smaller kind of cloven hooved ones kind of turn along with the bigger one with the curved blade. And you see them all three turn, forgetting about Killer Ash, and turn to face where you think Leandra either landed or whatever. And you can see all three of them. They're completely unaware of you or not paying any attention to you because you're way above them.
I am going to pull my longbow.
Okay.
And I'm going to bead on one of them that is the closest to Killer Ash.
Okay.
And
which one? They're kind of all equal distance, but on like the left hand side, you see the two with cloven hooves, and then the bigger one with the bigger kind of curved, almost like a large scimitar shaped dagger. And he seems to be the more human of the three, the larger of the three. And he's the one that you saw when Killer Ash dropped down. He's the one that you saw Killer Ash engage.
I'll take out the big guy first.
Big guy? Okay, go ahead.
Yep. Natural 20.
Wow. Okay, that's a way to start the day.
That's it.
Yeah,
Now
it
don't
is.
roll damage like me.
Oh my god.
That is the way to start the day.
All right, so that's a D8. That's a 7 plus, well, it would be 7 doubled, right? So
Yeah.
14 plus 1, 15 points of damage.
You quickly and with an amazing amount of dexterity and grace unleash your bow, pull it out, and almost in one motion you swing your bow forward, pulling an arrow at the same time, knocking it, and in one fluid motion take aim, launch, and send your arrow flying down the tube. Right when you release that arrow and you hear that soft twang of the bowstring, you know that this arrow is special. As it flies straight down, comes out of the tube at the very last second. There's almost a very faint but audible snapping of the fletching piercing the air down there as it comes out of the tube. The two smaller ones, and maybe even the bigger one, kind of they look like they're beginning to turn their heads when your arrow strikes straight on the top of the big one's head. At the very point of his skull, you hear the head of your arrow and bone collide, the bone giving way to the arrow as the arrow buries to the fletching down through this creature's brain, down into its spine, and lodges there. The creature's head stops suddenly. You can't see its face, but you think the effect is rather nice because you can see the two smaller ones that were beginning to turn. You see their jaws drop wide open. Leandra, you see their eyes snap open, their jaws drop and expose this rows of inky, dark, black, razor-sharp, jagged teeth. And you can see the slits where their nose, where a nose should be, and it's just that you see those flare wide as you hear this sound of surprise across their face. The bigger of the three immediately just goes stiff. No further movement, and literally almost like a board, this falls forward towards you, his head smashing in to the edge of the old worn walkway down in this old part of the sewer. And you immediately see blood begin to run across his scalp, out and onto the stone. The stone down here is very, very mossy, very, very moist. So the blood coming out of him, thick, inky black, begins to spread across the stone, blotting it out. There is maybe a twitch or two, a little shake of a foot, a little shiver to his spine, and then no more movement. You hear a very light of breath escape his mouth as the big one is dead for sure. The two littler ones, weapons in hand, they actually let out a pipe-high scream and drop their weapons and turn as if they are going to run down the direction where the light is at. However, Leandra, you've got the drop on them.
Awesome.
I will give you an attack of opportunity because they have dropped their weapons within range of you and are turning to run. So you get an attack of opportunity and then your normal attack.
Okay. And I'm gonna totally take it. So I'm gonna, I would have, so as soon as I had landed out of like whip my rapier out, and I'm gonna go after. It's just the two small ones left, right? So I'm gonna go over whichever one's closest to me, and do I get sneak attack?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
So do I have advantage, or is it just because he's close?
Just because he's close enough. He's turning away from you, so yeah, you can... They've forgotten everything at this point in time, except for running.
Okay. Let's see. I got a rapier, which... Third. $18.
Oh, yeah.
So, let's... I need 8. 9 damage.
Okay. You lash out with your rapier as they both turn to make their way away from you. Very gracefully and fluid, you flick out the rapier, piercing into the side, kind of maybe where the kidney might be. And you see one of the two smaller ones, the one closest to you, his body, very similar to that of the bigger one, kind of stiffen up. His back kind of arches backwards. And you feel when your blade goes in, it goes in smoothly, and then it hits something, and you almost think of like a ripe tomato. It is about the level of resistance that your thin rapier gets. And when your blade makes contact with that, that's when he kind of arches, and a gasp extends out of his mouth and into the sewer air, and his hand kind of darts out and reaches out almost instinctively, grabbing his compatriot's cloak and kind of pulling him back as his back is arched and his body kind of begins to fall, sliding off of your rapier, crumbling and spinning the other one to face you. You now have your second attack.
Okay. You can't offhand attack on a reaction one, right?
No.
On that. Okay. But did he go down?
Yeah, he went down. Your rapier is free.
Okay. Then I will go after the other one then.
Okay.
Same thing. Rapier. Oh, that one's better too. 23?
Yep.
17 plus 6.
Oh, yeah.
17 plus 6. Okay. I gotta do math. Oh, the damage is worse though. 8 damage.
8 points of damage. This one, you.
Oh, I didn't do my sneak attack though either.
Oh, okay.
So let me get that one.
Hope everybody out there in Chatland's doing good.
Plus 2.
Plus 2. That's
Yes.
still good.
10.
So 10.
10. You flick out the blade. You didn't, as the other creature falls and slides and crumples and kind of pulls, doesn't fully turn his friend, but pulls his friend kind of backwards as his hand slides off of him and the blade flicks out. Your rapier kind of bends as the creature you've dispatched falls into the muck of the slow moving sewer water. And as your end of your rapier begins to flick back, you go with that motion and you lace and let the rapier snap across. Rapier slices and slides across the jugular area of the other small creature as it slowly begins to turn. And as the tip of the rapier flicks out, you see a great gouge of of blackened blood begin to spray out as the creature grabs its neck and begins to do kind of it kind of reminds you of seeing a child very excited that they found something. He's kind of, his feet almost like a Snoopy dance. His feet dancing excitedly, splashing in the water, his eyes going wide, and with each, his hands kind of over his neck, and with each spurt of water that comes out, or blood that comes out of his neck, you see a little bit more life drain out of his eyes. Eventually, no more blood spurts. It just kind of drains over his hand. His eyes kind of waver, almost as if he's sleepy. And his eyes roll back into his head. And he crumples backward. You hear the sickening thud of his head hitting the sewer rock behind him. There, I can see myself on my own screen. It's bugging me that I can't. And he slams to the ground. Cirith, you up top, you see this. I mean, you're still kind of relishing your bow shot, but you see this new compatriot of yours. You see this new compatriot of yours, Leandra, quickly dispatch quite gracefully the other two, catching them completely and utterly off guard. They have both fallen, and now your eyes focus on the more immediate problem, because Killer Ash, make me a death save.
All right.
Natural 1.
11. No, I was expecting that, honestly.
I was too with the way you've been rolling.
All right, so you gain 1 save, but both of your eyes, while you would normally maybe celebrate, throw some high fives, do the secret, handshake and all of that, and celebrate back in the inn over your great victory here. Both your sets of eyes land on the slumping form of Killer Ash. Blood still seeping out of his body. What are the two of you going to do? We're going to start with Cirith.
I am going to be hauling ass down that tube so that I can...
Okay, exactly how is it that you're going to haul ass down that tube?
So, shouldering my bow, obviously, and I'm going to use the actual ladder things to go down.
You're lame.
Shush.
The
if
thing...
I kill myself on the way down, we both die.
The thing is is being down here in the heavy, moist air, in the slime of the sewers. You think that taking the ladder would probably be the safer way, and it might be safer in some instances. But as your hands and feet touch it, your foot slips just a little bit. You manage to right yourself on the rungs, but you realize that those rungs are very much wet, and there's quite a bit of this icky, green, thick, hair-like moss. You think it's moss hanging off of it. You know that in bigger cities, that the sewers can run quite high, and the curved ceilings and the way that the entrances are made keep the water from coming back all the way out, but they can run high. And you can play over in your mind that water probably has gone over the top of this tube, possibly at some point in the past. And as you begin to slowly make your way down, you realize you got 50 feet of this treacherous ladder, the slime and moss covered ladder to make your way down. The first 10 feet, you're doing fine, and then your foot slips again. You manage to catch yourself again, but your nerves might be coming up a little bit. You go about another 5 feet, and you hear a very sickening sound. As you hear metal drag against stone, your foot doesn't so much slip as the rung lets go of a piece of aged and time-worn stone that the water has apparently managed to break free. You hear stone kind of begin to tink, 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 and then sploosh and splash down into the water below you as your foot breaks free. That's not the biggest problem. The bigger problem is that as your weight shifts down, you snap with your hand because you were in the process of coming down. And your hand lands on one of these long, green, slimy, hair-like mossy patches and begins to slip free. Go ahead and make me a dexterity save as you scramble to keep yourself from falling the last 35 feet down the tube.
10. You scramble, and you scramble mightily. You find yourself in with that rung snapping, breaking loose, and shifting downward, scraping, and you can hear stone being torn away, and you realize that the walls in here, there's several spots in here where the walls are very weak. But your main focus is grabbing on, and your hand slips free and slips down, and you kind of drop, and you slam another hand up to grab a rung. But there is so much of this thick, heavy moss that you're unable to get your footing or your handhold, and you fall away and begin to plummet uncontrollably the last 35 feet and then the final 10 feet out of it. Leandra, you're standing there, and you probably are witnessing like just what has happened in front of you. Killer Ash again is a definite issue. You know that he's barely hanging on to life, if there is any life left. The pool of blood is seeping more and forming a larger and larger pool in the water around him. What are you going to do?
She's still up the ladder?
She's still up the ladder, but basically right when this happens, you begin to notice little pieces of stone falling out of the tube. You don't hear anything other than that, but there's a little bit of stone falling out of the tube. So it's very possible she's making her way down.
Okay, is Killer Ash like still like at the bottom where like he's gonna get smushed?
Yeah, he is dead center of the tube.
I will try to pull him out of the way.
Okay. You go ahead and you make your way past the dead bodies, and you reach Killer Ash at about the same time that you hear a low scream or a screech emit out of Cirith. And you probably cast an eye upwards, and you see Cirith kind of almost in a fetal position with her back to you, plummeting down out of the tube in a shower and spray of pebbles and rocks, and actually at this point some bigger pieces, like brick-sized pieces. As you're down and you see her coming at a great rate of speed, I need you to make a dexterity check. Well, actually, hold on, no. I need a strength check to see if you can pull Killer Ash. If you can get him up.
Nope.
Nope. What'd you roll?
3.
3. Ooh. So you reach down, you grab Killer Ash, and with all of your strength, you try to lift this half orc up. He's sizable. I mean, bigger than you. And you go to pull him up, and your back tightens, braces, your shoulders strain, and you can't get him up. You manage to lift him up just a little bit, and you feel your feet kind of dislodge underneath of you. Go ahead and make me a dexterity save.
Terrible roll. Okay, this one, dexterity. A save?
Yes.
So just with the straight modifier, no proficiency?
Yeah. Unless you, yeah.
14 then. Or
Okay. Do you have proficiency in dexterity as a save? Should.
I feel like
Yes.
rogues do.
Yeah.
I've got Oh, save, yeah, okay, 2 more then.
Okay.
Yeah. 16.
So 16.
I
You
was looking at the wrong number.
you go to lift Killer Ash up. His body weight too great for you. You do have the choice though at this point. You can continue to try and drag him, or you can just let go of him and dive clear.
I'm gonna get out.
All right.
I'll be right back. I gotta go blow my nose. I'm sorry.
Okay. We'll wait 30 seconds for you. Hurry up. Hurry up.
Oh, I know the feeling. I think allergies are going crazy.
So once Jeannie gets back, we'll finish up this little scene of ours. And just so people know that this is the shorter of the games that we run here on Force at the Table. This game is 2 to 2.5 hours every Sunday. A bit of rip-roaring fun. Today has got some interesting, some excitement, and a swerve. It seems like I've been throwing a lot of swerves and curveballs at people lately.
I swear.
If you missed Friday night's pop-up game, go back, watch it, especially the last hour of it,
Oh my
as you get to
God.
watch a turtle named Bubbles murder some children.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Some crazy stuff has happened in the last couple of games.
Both of them involving turtles.
This is true.
Turtles, bad.
Yep. Because it was Happy Zoo's turtle in the Wednesday game that made that woman freak out and run. And
Yes, God. Oh. Like, you are not allowed to talk anymore.
I just realized something. While she's doing what she's doing, I need to turn on the studio lights. I just realized I don't have them on. Give me a second.
Oh.
You cut out.
He cut out, but oh well. He must have muted himself before he stopped talking.
All right.
No, Chuck ran off.
Wow, man. Hey, look. Can you see me?
Sure can.
People are gonna have to forgive me. This is the 7th game I've ran in 8 days, so my brain isn't 110% here. But hey, I'm here to entertain. So you manage, Leandra, to dive back the way in which you came and leave Killer Ash there, probably under the assumption that two more deaths probably wouldn't be a good thing. As you see a shower of rocks, everything from small pebbles to brick-sized pieces come shooting out of the tube. In the middle of all of this is Cirith. And strangely enough, I'm pretty sure, would Cirith be angry at this?
She's a little upset because she is. She made that absolutely wonderful shot after being extremely upset that Killer Ash is down.
You're
down
very, very robotic, snappy, crackly there, Jeannie.
Okay. But yeah, she's a little upset trying to get down there and having all this crap happen. And all she wants to do is get there and help Killaresh.
Well, she's getting there. That much is for sure. As you eject from the tube and come screaming down in a shower of stones, you slam in to the floor of the old sewer system.
That's too many dice.
And the air escapes you, and you expect a much more solid impact. You expect to feel your bones crush and break, but you hit something strangely soft. It kind of gives way underneath of you and breaks your dance as you hear this great gasp of air escape a wet bag that appears to be Killaresh. As you slam your body into his, you take 8 points of damage from the impact as part of your shoulder cracks into the stone that he was resting against. And you slam Killaresh down into the water. Killaresh, I am going to roll and see how graphic this injury was. Do not hope for a 20.
I mean, I called it. 5 minutes.
You take damage, so you take 1 against your one death save, but you don't obviously notice anything else. You land, Cirith. Leandra, you see this as stone continues to fall down, and you begin to hear kind of this cacophonous sound up in that tube as several tinks and chinks and bigger chunks of rock begin to fall down out of the tube. Cirith, you look up and you begin to notice that wall where the one rung broke away from the wall. You notice bigger and bigger chunks beginning to fall, as if a domino effect had been released, as more and more of the stratus behind that wall and below the old or the new part of the sewer system begins to break away and crumble in a sort of landslide effect, as you see a stream of mud, rock, and other debris begin to stream out of this opening, slamming onto the far wall of the tube and beginning to jostle and break free elements of that side. As you look up, you notice this wall of mud, brick, and stone coming down and rumbling through the tube. The rumble is enough that you begin to notice parts of the ceiling, both down and up the old sewer from you, begin to dislodge from the ceiling. And it doesn't take a lot to figure out that there's a cave-in about to happen.
This is not a well-built sewer.
This is not good.
Well, since I fell down and I'm pretty much right on top of Killaresh, I'll grab fistfuls of his tunic or whatever he's wearing and try rolling us both out of the way.
Hold on a second. To everybody out there in chat, is how's the audio? We had issues last night, and I think we're having issues again today.
I know at least on my end, I'm not having any issues hearing Genie or Jens, other than like the odd cutout.
Yeah. I'm not getting any robotic stuff though.
I'm getting crackling from everybody. Yeah, crackly, exactly. That's what I'm hearing too, Swarmsy.
So it's probably something to do with the feed going up. Because we're hearing each other in Discord fine.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm hearing everybody crackling.
I'm not getting any kind of crackle though, just like what Connor was saying.
Let
Once
me-
in a while
let me
somebody
see.
might cut out, but that's it.
All right, Jeannie, can you talk for me for a second?
I am trying very, very hard to not have Killerish and I both die right now.
Okay, Connor.
I'm doing okay. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna die though. So
Yeah, I'm getting crackling bad. Oh, come on. Like I said, I don't know. I'm my extreme resources are fine. Absolutely fine. That's what's bugging me. Right now,
it's great that
yeah.
it's just on your end too, Chuck. Because like I said, I don't hear any crackle from anybody else, even you.
Everything is fine.
But they're hearing it
Could
on the live feed.
They're hearing it on the
Banana?
feed, though. That's the
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah. Could it be banana since you're running everything through that?
No. Everything through banana is fine. Give me a second, folks, while I try to figure this out. Okay, Jeannie, talk for me.
This really sucks that I opened up with a natural 20 to kill something, and now we're having trouble with
All
the
right.
audio. issues.
Connor, say something.
I'm pretty sure I'm gonna die here in about 2 seconds.
Jen, say something.
I hopefully will save you all.
All right.
Fingers crossed.
We're having some weird stuff here. Okay, we're just gonna go with it. Everything sounds okay. I hope it does, because I'm gonna lose my mind here in a second. So, anyways, as you look up and you see this, and you, Leandra, you notice more and more material beginning to fall down. What was just like pebbles and small chunks of brick are now becoming big chunks of dirt mixed in with larger chunks of not only brick but rock, like earthen rock. And this rumbling is stretching out. You can't quite tell how far because there's an echo forming, but it's this great as the sewer itself kind of begins to dishevel underneath of you and begins to shake. What are the two of you, Cirith and Leandra? What are you two going to do? Cirith, you are laying on top, as you now know, of Killerash, and I need another death save from Killerash.
17.
All right, so we got 2 good and 1 bad. 1 bad.
So as I said, I'm going to grab fistfuls of his tunic and try and heave us both out of the way, kind of in a rolling motion.
And I'll be like, there is a light, right? Like a way out.
Yeah.
One way. I'll be like,
Well, it's not a way. It's not a way
That
out.
way.
It's a glowing magical kind of orb that's set to hover just above a rusted sconce that's fastened to the wall. And actually about another 25, 30 feet down, you see a similar one. There's none going the other way. So it appears that wherever these things that you guys just dispatched came from, they came from the direction of the light. And you see it again form and go around a corner, and you can see a glow emanating from around the corner.
I mean, if I can, I will try to now help her, since now that's like obviously this is caving in on us.
Okay. Go ahead. You're able to. What are you gonna do, Cirith?
Sorry?
What are you gonna do?
I'm trying to roll us out of the way.
Okay. Roll both you and Killerash.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead and roll me a strength check.
16.
16. You manage to kind of you bring yourself up a bit. You reach down and you grab on to Killerash. You can't. You try to kind of roll him, and you realize that he's somehow tangled up with the rocks and stuff like that as this debris begins to continue to come. But with one great kind of arch of your back, you actually manage to pull him free And it seems to be just in the nick of the time as a great huge chunk of mud and dirt and twisted bits of like the rungs come slamming down to where Kilaresh was just out. You jerk him forward in a way, and you kind of slide and kind of land back on your butt. He's away from the hole, but there is a very large pile of matter beginning to form up where everything is just crashing down out of the tube. And you begin to notice bigger and bigger chunks of stone dropping out and off of the walls. You begin to notice as you kind of look down. Go ahead and both of you roll me a perception check.
Me too?
Yeah.
9.
20.
Wow.
Not natural, but not.
You don't see this, Sirith, but Leandra, you do. Your eyes kind of noticing that there seems to be ceiling pieces dislodging from down here. You notice at several points, both up from you, going to the left, and down towards the lights, it looks like lower parts of the wall are beginning to break loose. So it's beginning to look like slides almost of little bits of earth and rock matter beginning to slide in to the tube or the tunnel that you guys are currently in. You see Sirith kind of struggling to get Kilaresh up. How much do you weigh, Kilaresh? Are you a
probably
fat
like probably like 200.
Okay. So
15, you're right on that.
yeah, with the water added and just the unsure footing, you see Sirith struggling to get him up.
Well, I will definitely try to help and pull it in whatever direction there looks like is the least debris falling.
All right, so I need you, Sirith, to roll me a strength check with advantage as Leandra comes over and begins to help you try to get the half-orc up.
That would be a 20.
You'd be a 20. Wow. Yeah, easily. Awesome. The pair of you easily managed to get him up. And as you lift him up, you see kind of like his cloak was kind of over in the area where the muck and the mire and the stuff is falling down. And as you lift him up, you can see on his back this great stain of blood. And then across him, another stain of blood. Kilaresh, I need another death save.
12!
Yay!
I'm stable.
He's stable. The three of you, Kilaresh, stabled finally, stand there. Which way are you going to go? Are you going to run up, away from the light, or down towards the light? You can see that both ways, it appears that there's slides happening and the ceiling is caving and giving way under this great rumble. Your feet are kind of a bit unstable as the ground is shaking.
I would say we go towards the light.
Yep, I would too.
All right, you guys begin to make your way towards the light, kind of ducking and dodging. Go ahead and roll me a dexterity save to see if you're able to make way without getting hit by, and this is both of you, getting hit, because you're jerking him back and forth to see if you keep from getting hit from pieces falling and dodge away from some of the slides and all of that.
12.
12?
12 as well.
12 as well. I'm going to say that you guys each... You guys each take 1 point of damage just from debris falling from the ceiling and all of that. And you're hearing this great rumbling as it's building behind you. And you cast a glance over you and you notice as you're fast moving, carrying Kilaresh, that the ceiling behind you is crumbling down. So it's almost like for every 10 feet you guys go, it's crumbling and it seems to be catching up to you. You turn a corner, go down a little ways, more of the sewers breaking away. You turn once again and dart down off to your right. And you hear this loud snap and a crack. As behind you, you see the ceiling give way, but more horrifying than that, as at the top and swallowed up by this cave in, because as it drops down, more debris fills in on top of it. You see a family of what appears to be 4 who were probably eating a meal in their home just above the sewer system area where this collapse happened. And their home and they themselves have been snapped up in this sinkhole. And more debris comes together, and you realize, Sirith, that your one misplaced step is probably causing chaos and damage and death above, because you can only now imagine more sinkholes coming and crashing down and people losing their lives. But you would probably be worried of that. But as you snap your head back around, you hear a rumble in front of you, and the sewer drops away. You have the possibility of making a dexterity save to try and catch yourselves, or you can try to ride it out. Got to remember that while Killer Ash is stable, he's no help. So you're holding on to him, and you can see literally like 10 feet in front of you, the sewer system. It starts as a small hole, and it begins to crumble and give way, and it kind of you can see it just kind of starting to fall away, coming towards you. Behind you, you've got the cave-in happening.
Wow.
I say we
I'm
ride
here
it
for
out.
moral support, guys.
Yeah, I figure we both kind of have him by like one arm.
If we're,
each or
if we're
something.
going forward, we're screwed. If we try going back, it's not going to help us. I say we try and ride it out.
Okay. As it comes up and gets closer to you, fear kind of traces its fingers up your spines, because you realize that it's not just falling to another part of the sewer, that things are collapsing and tumbling into this great kind of giant cavern beneath the city of Winterfell, or the town, a large walled town of Winterfell. You hear somewhere above and behind you, you hear screams. You hear barking animals, dogs howling. You hear alarm bells kind of going off. And Sirith, as you kind of cast a glance back, and Leandra, you cast a glance back, and whether it's their adrenaline affecting you somehow, Killer Ash, your eyes snap open. You have 1 hit point. And your eyes snap open. Winterhelm. Sorry, clergy. You see your eyes snap open, and all 3 of you glance back. Go ahead and roll me perception checks. We're going to see if you can see through all the falling rubble and stuff.
That was the first good perception check I've had in a while. It was 17.
17. 11.
Yeah.
Did we get them?
So, Sirith, looking back, you're the only one that sees this, but the broken rung coming off of the sewer, the tube going down, you thought was the cause of all of this. And your heart, actually, as you saw that family sink down into the sinkhole and disappear, and all the rubble and stone and mud and dirt, and you hear the other screams, and you're just thinking in your head that you've caused all of this death. You hear kind of this roar of flame and fire, and a deep gutturalness to it. You hear this great snapping somewhere up, and all of this stuff happening. You hear alarm bells ringing, these great gonging sounds as alarms are flying up. And you can think in your head that they're flying up because you're causing this great cataclysmic event from misplacing just 1 boot on a rung. But you see something that causes your blood to go cold. You see a great red serpentine creature coming out of the sky, landing on the steeple of this great temple that you remember when you first came into Winterfell. You see this great serpentine creature landing on top of that steeple. You can see buildings out there that are burning. You can see great fires, gouges of flame ripping up into the sky, mixing in with the screams and the gongs and all of that. This great serpent, this dragon, must have a wingspan that goes over 100 feet easily. You can see as he looks down towards you in this great sinkhole that's opening up in the middle of Winterhelm. You can see his flaming red eyes, each the size, just the iris, the slit irises, probably the size of 2 or 3 of the manholes that you originally initially came down into. And you see his eyes peering through all of this, and they lock on yours. And you see, for just a brief moment, this thing looking at you, this great giant serpent's head. You can see tufts of it looks like fur and looks aged hanging from its chin. And then you realize it's this strange, scaly, almost goatee. And you can see its head, great head, has an age to it. This isn't a young dragon by any stretch of the imagination. But it takes notice through all of this debris. You can see buildings collapsing, crumbling, tumbling into this. You can see him take notice of you, and your blood runs cold because you got a strange feeling this probably is not going to be the last time you have to deal or see or meet this particular serpent. And as you fall down into the cavern below, the flooring, the stability of the sewer system breaking away, great chunks of stone and everything, and the ground giving way, and you hang there in this air for just a brief moment. You see a bit of a devious, knowing twinkle in its eye, and before you're swallowed up under the darkness, you think you see its lip curl up in a wicked smile. You can see one broken tooth, jagged in its mouth, that stands out from the rest of it. You can see these great horns arcing off the back of its head. As it looks at you, it peels its eyes away, lets out another great roar. You see this huge gout of flame erupt out of its mouth as he brings his head down and sweeps once more across the central part of Winterhelm. And then you hear the drums as everything is swallowed up in the roar of the collapsing cavern. There are beings with this great beast. I hope everybody's enjoying the show. We're going to take a quick break. I need to refill my water. I'm going to leave the cameras on. I'm going to leave the sound on. We'll be back at it here in about 5 minutes. I'd like to take a moment to thank, first off, my players for once again joining up with me and letting me play with them. And I would like to thank all of you guys for coming and hanging out with us. We'll be back here in about 5 minutes. Thank you very much.
Oh my goodness.
can't read lips?
No.
Damn. Steamfield. All three of you awaken battered, bruised, beaten, and damn near broken. You can hear echoing through this great cavern that you never knew was beneath the city of Winterhelm. You can hear bits of falling debris you can only assume from the great cave-in above you. And as you lay there, your back's kind of bent over chunks of this and bits of that. You look over in the darkness and you can see the outline of what appear to be trees from maybe a city park far above. And there's this great open circle in the sky above you. It's not filled in. It's hundreds of feet up above you, probably 300-400 feet up. And you can see the night sky. You can see the glowing rim of fire of what remains of Winterhelm. You don't hear any drums, Cirith, like you did when you first fell and everything went black and you were swallowed up in the landslide. But you do hear this great flapping sound. You can hear, it's not like something flying, it's like something moving. And you hear way up there screams, faint. You hear what sounds like, at first, all of you hear what sounds like an alarm bell, and then it clatters, ringing to the ground, the solid surface. You can pretty much picture in your head all of Winterhelm on fire, people dying. And way up there in the night sky, you see a great serpentine head come to the edge and look down. You see glowing eyes, reptilian with slits of black, peering down into the darkness. And then you see a great claw and the tip of a wing, and it strikes you that this creature, while the opening isn't particularly huge, you get the feeling that there is a great slide of earth, and that this creature is beginning or is acting like it's going to come over the lip and the edge. A terror fills you even from this distance as this great serpent, kind of almost in a slide-like maneuver, comes over the edge. When its body, nice and tucked, comes down, you don't know how far. You can see in the night sky shadowed these great wings unfurl. And you realize that that beast of a dragon is coming for you as it begins to descend down into the darkness. You see smoldering smoke coming out of the sides of each of its mouths, its lips curled up in a snarl, its nostrils flared. You can see a glow around its face, giving this ghostly orangish red to its scales, and you see these great eyes narrow down as if peering down into the darkness. That terror strikes you, and you know that you probably shouldn't stay where you're at any longer. What are the three of you going to do?
Does there look like there's any place to run to?
As you kind of quickly scan around, go ahead and roll me a perception check. All three of you. You all see this dragon coming down.
That would be an 18.
And I know everybody out there in chat's probably thinking, this dude is one sadistic bastard. That's like an ancient dragon, and these guys are like level 2. I told you guys, man. It's a living world.
15. Perception, you said?
Yeah.
15.
So you got an 18, was that right, Jeannie?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Killer Ash.
I got a 14.
And Killer Ash, you have 3 hit points at this point.
Hey!
So you all three... villain. You all three glance around, terror rising. Like as the dragon swoops closer and closer down, you feel this terror kind of emanating, this fear emanating off of it. Go ahead, Cirith, because you're the one that you kind of look back up at it. Your focus is more on the dragon. You feel pulling from inside of you, this like string, and it pulls through you, and it feels like it pulls towards the dragon. Like there's some kind of ethereal, unseen cord binding you to this great beast. And you turn and you look back up and you focus on the dragon. Killer Ash and Leandra, as your eyes scan around in the darkness of however immense this cave is, you can see that there appears to be water. You can see glistening from the moonlight coming down and that sort of thing. So you can see a glistening of water, and you begin to pick out the fact that there's something strange down here. You can see pathways leading to stone platforms, almost like hallways with no walls, through and around and on top of the water. And as you kind of glance around, this terror growing inside of you, Cirith, you realize that this thing's coming slowly and its grin is getting bigger. It's got that. Go ahead and roll me an insight check.
That would be a 9.
That'd be a 9. You get the feeling as if a mouse being played with by a very large fire-breathing cat. You can't pick out more than the fact that this thing appears to be coming down slower than what you imagine it could be able to do. But you do see its lips curling up and this kind of taunting smile, this evil grin, and you can see molten saliva dripping off over its lips and dripping down, and you see this saliva hitting the stonework and the mud and the dirt and sizzling at the temperature difference, and as it burns little particles of this and that within it. The two of you looking over, both Killer Ash and Leandra, looking over and trying to figure out if there's some place you can go. You see off to the side, maybe 100 paces if you're lucky, a faint silvery white glow emanating from what appears to be an archway far off to the side, to your right side. As the dragon continues to slowly come down upon you, you hear Killer Ash let out this great cry of this way, and that kind of pulls you back, Cirith. But you still feel that cord binding the two of you together, you with this dragon. Your blood boils inside, your eyes probably emitting a fiery radiance, as a strange primal energy kind of begins to boil in your blood. Do you all start running to make your way to that silvery light?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So you all,
this is freaking me out.
you all begin to run, and you realize it's kind of it's like as if it was a corridor in a dungeon without any walls. And as you're running along, you make jumps from one side to the other as you see these sections that are broken, and you can see in the water as you glance off to the side as you're making this dash what looks to be broken pillars, broken statues, that sort of thing out in the water. And you notice as you're kind of running along that there appears to be at one point in time statues and stuff on the walkways. The walkway is 10 to 15 feet wide as you're making your way. And at the last second, you realize, still about 25, 30 feet to go, you hear this great roar of anger. Not so much above you, but behind you, as you hear this loud slam of leathery, scaled feet crashing into the cavern. And you see, from the corners of your eyes, this orange, fiery glow erupt and begin moving towards you. In front of you is a gap, probably 10 feet across. You can see where it looks like there's maybe one small stone, so you could probably go like in line, jump to that stone and jump across, or you can even try to launch your way across. But the one thing that goes through your mind is if you go in that water, this great beast behind you might have a snack. Go ahead and tell me how you're going to cross this. Are you just going to try and jump it and clear it, or are you going to try and launch, hit that little bit of stone, and then go further?
10 feet?
Yeah.
I'm just going to haul ass and shout "Tally ho!" and go for a long jump.
Okay. Go ahead and roll me in athletics.
I think I'm semi decent at that. Less decent. Can it be acrobatics?
No, we're gonna
Actually,
say
no, it doesn't matter. That's the same.
yeah, they're the same. I'm gonna say athletics because you're launching yourself. It's more of an athletic move.
It's 11.
11. Okay, you launch into the air. Leandro, what are you going to do?
You said there's like a stone.
Yeah, it's like the
partway
it's like
or something?
the it's crumbled away. Like this section of 10 feet is kind of crumbled away into the water, and there's still a section about 5 feet across, or 5 feet out from the one side, so just about in the middle of the 2 points. So you
How
can.
big is it?
It's probably a good 3 feet across by 2 feet.
Okay, and it's not submerged in the water.
No, it actually looks exactly like the stone that you're currently running on.
Okay, I will run, jump, hit that stone in the middle, and then leap to the other side.
All right, roll me in acrobatics. As the stone moves. I lied. No. just
Oh,
kidding.
thank you. Acrobatics. 19 plus 6, 25.
Oh wow, yeah. You hit that rock. You see Leandro hit that rock, and you, Killer Ash, as you're in the air, you see Leandro just bound into your vision off to your left hand side, hit the rock and launch off the rock. You're in the air. She's in the air, kind of making distance away from you. Cirrus, what are you going to do?
I'm following the half work this time. I'm just fucking jumping.
Okay, go ahead and roll me in athletics.
Oh, man.
$14.
Ah, damn it. All three of you land safely on the other side, keeping your footing and continue your run. You can hear now this crackling, snapping roar of red flame erupting behind you, and it's gaining on you. You're roughly about 10 feet from the entrance of where this silvery light was emitting. And as you look in, you can see this great vein of what appears to be a silvery metal inside down this hallway. The hall is very rough hewn, and as you come running towards it, you all three realize you see what appears to be rusted iron rails coming out of it. You don't see any wood, but you do see rusty iron rails. And as you see those rails come out and you kind of look down, you realize that there are rail markings, but no rails on what you're running on. And the idea that this is a mine. And you see this great silver vein cutting through the wall on the left-hand side. And you see splotches of what appears to be like a fungus growing on the right side over the top and on the left side. That's giving off this kind of translucent kind of a glow into the area. It's reflecting off, and this is what's causing that silvery light. You're going to need to make one more dex to launch yourself, because you can feel the warmth coming up behind you. You can feel, a matter of fact, some of your clothing behind you beginning to ignite.
That was athletics?
Dexterity.
All of us?
All
Or,
three of us?
Yep, all of you.
just regular dex or acrobatics?
Acrobatics.
$15 for me.
Okay.
12.
12. What'd you get, Killer Ash?
6. So much for saving your ass.
So,
Yep.
all three of you plant your feet and launch towards that opening, not knowing really what kind of good the opening is going to do with this wall of fire just roaring behind you. You plant your foot, Killer Ash, and it hooks. And you glance down and you see your toe, just as you're at that point where your toes hit like that and you're ready to launch, and your toe slides right into an iron rod sticking up out of the ground right next to where these rails would have been coming out. A remnant of this hall, a remnant of this mining operation. And your foot hits it, and you tumble forward, not in the air, not diving, but tumbling on the ground. You pull up maybe 1.5 feet, 2 feet from the entrance. Cirith, Leandra, you make it into the entrance quite readily as the flame, and you both look back. I'm going to say that Cirith was the last to go in. You, Cirith, you tumble shoulder first into the cave and roll. And as your eyes come back, you see that Killaresh is not going to make it. This great anger that I said and had described before that was brewing up in you as you see this wall of flame coming your direction. It kind of is fading, but you know that Killaresh won't survive it. And you can see the great outline of this serpent beast. Its wings snapped back as it looks like it's raising up to bellow again. The anger sears inside of you. It burns in your lungs. Your heart pace races. You can feel your heart just thumping and thumping. It feels 2-3 times the size that it normally does. You can feel your skin. You literally feel your skin beginning to warm. And Leandra, as you land, and you kind of do that same Spider-Man kind of land. You land and turn and kind of slide with your hand on the ground, looking back, certain that you're going to see death coming your way. You notice this glow kind of emanating from Cirith. Cirith, what are you going to do? You can risk life and limb, reach out and grab for Killaresh, possibly ending your own existence, or you can let Killaresh to his fate.
I'm going to try and grab him and send him forward.
Okay. You're going to kind of... exactly how are you going to do this? Describe this to me.
Because I landed right behind him, right?
Well, no. He's still out. His foot hooked, and so he's kind of rolling towards the entrance, and you can see he's going to come up short. You're actually just inside the entrance. Both you and Leandra made it in. Both kind of came up cocked, ready to run kind of thing. So your body is coiled up, and you feel this great, immense rage building inside of you. Your heart is thrumming inside of your chest. It's not beating anymore. In your ears, you don't hear boom, 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 boom. You hear this as your heart is just exploding. You can feel and sense and smell the glow coming off of you as you smell your sweat beginning to soak through your clothing. It's not coming from the fire in front of you. It's coming from inside of you. And you feel that cord that I described between you and this great serpentine beast begin to throb and thrum with your heartbeat and its heartbeat. And you feel this connection to this creature. You don't know where that connection comes from, but you definitely feel it. You're bound up like an overloaded spring, sort of.
I am going to race out and grab Killaresh, and like I was saying, I'm just gonna basically turn and make sure to push him towards the exit as hard as I can.
Okay. You uncoil your body and it takes your breath away, and Leandra, you actually kind of uncoil a little bit and kind of like stumble backwards when you see this, because what you see is this glow launch forward, and it's with way too much speed. This is inhuman. Even being a fire genasi, Cirith, this is beyond anything you've ever experienced. It's like your eyes begin to blink and your hand is on top of Killarash's body, and your hand comes down and grabs into him. But for a split second, you don't see your hand. You see a red scaled claw coming out from underneath your clothing as you grab on to Killaresh, and with ease you lift him into the air and dash back into the cave. When she turns around, Leandra, and you see this, you see her as you've seen her before, but her flesh is shattered. It's spiderwebbed like shattered glass. and you see these veins glowing insanely hot reddish orange throughout her face, and her skin's taking on this pale orange kind of tinge to it. As she comes in, you hear this roaring wall of fire slam in to the stone outside, and this flame begin to come in towards you. But it doesn't reach you. You kind of almost close your eyes, expecting to feel heat wash over you and your skin melt away, but that doesn't happen. Cirith, you slam in to Leandra, shoving her backwards. It's a speed and a power you're very, very unfamiliar with. But you push her back. Leandra, go ahead and roll. Well, no, not even. You just roll backwards. Killer Ash slamming to the ground and sliding forward. You come to a rest, and everything kind of is spinning and sparking. You can smell burning, but it's molten in smell. And you all three look back, and you see the cave entrance melting. You see that great vein of silver metal that I described has melted partially and begun to form in a pool about 15-20 feet back the way you came. That's how hard you came into the tunnel. Killaresh and Leandra, as you both look at Cirith lift her head up, you can see that coming up her neck, up onto her chin, and spreading from her chin just below her cheeks, following her cheek line, you see ash gray spider-like lines, like shattered glass, forming along her skin and wrapping back up. You notice that a piece of her hair drops down. What color was your hair before?
It was basically a super light reddish blonde with like gold streaks in it.
And that is what you both remember seeing. But what drops down is this dark, charred gray colored strand of hair. And her skin takes on this kind of soft, subtle orange hue. It's a very, very faint glow. And you notice in her eyes that before it was human-like pupils, you notice the one is human-like and the other one has the slit of a serpent, dragon-like. You notice that her cloak and her back appears to be on fire as she collapses to the ground in a great sigh. Everything goes black. For you, Cirith. The two of you are in this tunnel, fumes building up. Some of the moss in the mold that was giving off that glow has been burnt crisp. And you can see this smoldering, molten silver bit of a river beginning kind of to cross across. You kind of both kind of look at each other. You're kind of patting your own bodies, like expecting to be on fire. And you're not. And you see her kind of collapse and crumple down. Cirith, the darkness kind of fades, and you find yourself laying in this great green pasture, a clearing of an ancient forest. These trees are far older than any trees you've ever seen before. They're pine. They're trees you're familiar with, but never at this size, like double the size of a redwood. And out in the middle of the field, you see a woman with golden blonde hair streaked through with bits of silver and red, coming together with this stoic looking man. And they embrace, and you begin to watch them make love to each other. This isn't like a violent thing. It's actually a beautiful thing. And you actually feel a tear begin to trace down your cheek as they come together amidst these wildflowers and this beautiful summer afternoon alone in this majestic glade. And you notice that there are animals and creatures peering out from the woods at these two figures. And as they do this, and as they embrace each other, and this passionate embrace twists together, you begin to sense a bit of familiarity coming from their area. Leandra, Killer Ash, you're in this hallway. You kind of begin to look around, and as you look down the direction that's the only viable option for you to go, you see this rough-hewn corridor, and you see the rails, the tracks, obviously mining tracks, continuing down, and then there's a crossway where the tracks continue to go down, or not down like down, but continue to go out down the hallway. And you can see where the track comes together and it turns off to the right, but the track doesn't turn the other way. And on the other side, you notice there's more of an actual finished archway, and you can both see a rune carved into the top of that. What languages do you guys speak?
Let's see, where is that? Right there. I speak Common and Orc.
Okay.
Undercommon, Common, Elvish, and Thieves' Cant.
And Thieves' Cant. Okay. The rune is very angular. It's very, very set. It's hard. The rune itself looks hard. Something in the back of your mind plays off. The idea that this could be dwarven is not that far-fetched. But there's an urgency because you begin to hear this great scraping. It's muted and muffled, but it's coming from where the fire came, from where the dragon landed. You can almost envision in your head this great red claw trying to dig its way through. Cirith is laying there on the ground, a serene, peaceful look on her face with these spidery marks coming up her face, the orange hue replacing what she had before. And you can now see as she kind of goes completely out that chunks, big rivers of thick, charcoal charred gray black hair hangs down out. Definitely different than what you remember her having.
Well, that's odd.
Yeah, never saw nothing like that before.
We should probably get out of here. And I'm going to walk over to Cirith and kind of throw over my shoulder. Because you're tiny, right?
Not really.
Well, then I will put one arm over my shoulder and I'll start dragging her along.
All right.
I'm tiny. Mine is tiny.
as you reach down and you pull her up, Cirith, you're looking out on this great, immense glade, this mountain retreat. In the wildflowers, you see these two figures embracing, passionate love erupting out of it. And like I said, you can see birds in the trees. You can see animals looking out into this area and watching intently at what's happening. And then you feel behind you and above you something grabbing onto you, and you feel yourself being pulled out of this peaceful and serene setting. And you don't want to go. You want to see this out, not in a perverted, sick sort of way, but you feel yourself connected to what you're watching. But whatever it is relentless in pulling you out. And darkness begins to come into the edges of your vision, as if you're being pulled out and up and away through a tunnel. And the last thing that you see is that female with the golden hair with the silver and red tangled through it. You see her head loll over and look at you, and her eye blinks. And when it opens, you see a yellow reptilian serpentine eye with black slits in them. You see her lip curl up in a very familiar way, almost tauntingly at you as you're pulled through the tunnel. Your eyes snap open, and Killaresh is trying to lift you up off the ground.
Pull me down, I can walk.
Oh, so you're okay. All right, then. We should leave.
Definitely.
And I'm going to leave.
So is that all you're going to do, Cirith? I mean, you
She's
were
a little bit stunned right now.
okay.
She's probably gonna have to take a couple seconds and like look around and orient herself
Okay.
with where the hell she's at.
Okay. So which way are you guys going to head? You're about 25, 30 feet from the crossroads. You can follow the rail straight the way you were going as you came in. You can veer off to the right, and then off to the left. The track does not go, and it doesn't look like it was ever meant to go that way. And that's where the finished archway is at.
I vote the finished archway. That's where I'm going to look first.
Me too.
Because I'm hoping that means that this is where they came into the mine. But we'll see.
But there's
So that's
no
where I'm
track
heading.
going that way, but there's definitely a finished archway.
Yeah.
So,
I'm heading to the finished archway. As soon as she said that she can walk, I sat her down and I walked away.
All right. Are you going to follow them, Cirith, or?
Yeah, kind of slowly because I'm still, kind of looking around, getting my bearings because this isn't the way the room was when I came through. So
I'll give everybody a
It's a little
history check to see if they can kind of maybe suss out what this is, where it is, anything like that.
history. Okay.
16.
This sounds good. Oh, natural 20
Nice.
on a history check, of course, but it might be interesting. So 23 total.
Okay. Cirith and Leandra, you both definitely recognize this to be dwarven in build. And strangely enough, Leandra, from somewhere back in I don't know, your childhoods, maybe you met a dwarf one time, or you read a book that was about dwarves. Somehow, some way, you know that rune that's up on the top of the left way, it indicates that beyond that archway are like living quarters, like a barracks or kitchens, that sort of thing. You can see just underneath of it several other smaller runes, but you can't quite make out or understand what they say. And as the three of you look down that hallway, you look down into just inky blackness. There's no light. There's no anything down there. The air is stale the further you go in. There doesn't appear to be any form of life outside of sporadic patches of this glowing kind of, it glows. You now realize there's kind of a some of it's got a very light greenish glow to it. Some of it's got a very light lavender purple kind of glow to it, but it's just above white. But it's enough that it dances off little parts of where you can see chunks of silver. You think actually about 15 more feet down past the archway on the right-hand side, you see something glint in the wall, kind of like a gem or something like that. But as you stand looking down the archway, your vision go back down that way. It's completely dark. There is none of this moss or algae or whatever it is that's giving off this light.
So do we continue this way, guys? Because
You all hear that kind of scratching sound still happening. It's now lesser than what it was before. Now it sounds like almost as if there's pickaxes or something out there, like somebody's chopping into it.
Which way is that?
That's back the way you came. That's where the cavern was kind of melted in and all that.
I'm heading into the room with the rune
Okay.
because I don't know better.
All right.
Tapping
So
a small tune on my drum.
are all three of you heading into that room?
I am.
Yes, especially if we saw something shiny glinting. Leandra's going.
Well, that was actually down the corridor with the rail.
Oh, the other way. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's okay. We'll go this way because it said living quarters or living area, so
All right.
there
So-
might be stuff in there.
Your dark vision extends out, Killer Ash, and you can make out in that kind of vision style that there's nothing living. You don't even see a rat or a bug or anything scurry around. And this corridor goes down probably a good 35, 40 feet. And it ends at a partially opened stone door that appears to have bands of metal inside of it, as if it's kind of like instead of having wood planks, it has what appears to be stone planks. It's cocked partially inward, and you can see as you look like down and through it that there doesn't appear to be anything that's been disturbing the dust. And as you kind of cast a glance back with Cirith and Leandra coming along behind you, you can see with each of their steps little puffs of dust come up off the ground. You appear to be the first people to ever enter into this area in centuries.
So we're definitely going the right way. You said the door's cocked open?
Yeah, it's partially open, just a little bit.
Does it open towards us or into the
It
next
opens
room?
into the next room.
So I'm going to move up, not like super stealthily, but, I'm trying to avoid making, like, stomping my feet.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to put my hand on the door and gently push it, see if it'll open.
You put your hand on it, and there's a little bit of resistance, but not like as if something was laying on the ground. And as the door swings open, you can see it cut this great gouge in dust on the ground. And that dust kind of comes up, filters up and up into the air. And you gasp. Because as the door comes almost to a 90-degree point, first one, then another, and then another, trailing down both sides of this great hall that you're now entering into. You see these lanterns that are hanging off of what you thought should be rusted, but they're not. Sconces. Each of them a globe, and they ignite with a glowing orange flame. And just first, poof, one lights up, and then poof, another one lights up, and they go down probably what appears to be about 60 to 70 feet. The chamber that you're entering into is probably about 80 feet wide. Probably about 80 feet wide, probably about 120 long. And you see several crumbling great wooden tables. Some of them have toppled over, the wood rotted, aged, or whatever. Some of them broken. You see benches that are tipped over, twisted, broken, shattered, and rotted away with age. And then you begin to see them. You see little glints of metal in the room. And you see first one skeleton off to the side, his hand out as if something was in it at one point in time. And you can see bits of leather hanging to the skeleton. There's no flesh. This is old. All of them are covered in dust. So you can make out the shapes of the skeletons, but nothing beyond that. As the lights continue to light their way down, you see on this side, roughly about every 20 feet, there appears to be a door that lays rended off of hinges. These are wooden doors, shattered, broken, that go into something beyond. Roughly about every 20 or 25 feet. So there's 5 on this side and 5 on this side going down. You see great stone pillars rising up to an arched ceiling that flattens out at the top. And again, just about matching where each door is at, there's 2 pillars rising up to meet the ceiling. As the light kind of filters out and filters into the room and illuminates things, you begin to see that there's actually murals of painted figures and stuff that have crumbled away. And so most of it's hard to see. But it looks like the ceiling's actually been carved. And you see a scene that you can almost imagine walking down a great canyon or a pass in the mountains, because as it comes up, it looks like somebody has carved mountains, and then the flat part where the pillars go to appears to be like a night sky. Faded paint, but you can see where somebody has actually painstakingly carved out a night sky up above. You okay, Jeannie?
Yeah.
Am I boring you?
No.
Oh, okay. You look like you were falling asleep.
No.
You don't like dwarves?
Yes, I do.
Oh, I don't. That's why these are all dead.
I've gathered that.
That's what you see stretching out in front of you.
Well, that's very pretty.
Wow.
And I'm continue down.
You're going to what?
Continue through the room.
You're gonna continue
Is there
through
a
the
door
room?
at the far end, or
Well, I'm going to look around at some of this stuff too.
Okay, as the final light illuminates the very far part of the hall, and the light kind of crosses along the wall, you see it begin to illuminate two great stone doors and formed in one archway. So you can see where there's a split between them, and those doors are cocked partially open, as if the one on the left-hand side is still closed, the other one is partially open. You see a great band of this silvery kind of metal coming down the center of it and across, and you see two great rings placed on the doors. You don't see any hinges, however, but the doors are left, and the one on the right is cocked partially open in your direction. There is probably a good 2 to 3 inches of dust, some pebbles, just where the stones just naturally from rumbles and stuff like that has been knocked loose. Almost all the paint is faded, and like I said, it's 2 to 3 inches of dust. You are definitely the first people to be in here at least a couple centuries.
Yep, I'm just keep trucking across the room. Maybe keeping an eye out, see if maybe one of these guys dropped a sword or something since I lost mine.
Okay. You continue to make your way down into the chamber, into the hall, and as you move, do Leandra and Sirith follow Killer Ash?
I am. Yeah. I'm the last one.
Okay.
I'm walking that way. I'm trying to look around to see if I see anything either as I go, like what happened or whatever.
As Killer Ash enters into the room, he begins to kick up these great, huge clouds of dust off of the ground. As he comes into it and marches through the place, just the movement begins to swirl up these little dust devils of dust that's been settling in here for 300, 400, 500, 600 years. You notice the doors, all of them have been opened up and off of their hinges. Everybody go ahead. First off, describe how exactly you're moving. What kind of actions are you taking as you move into the chamber? Just saying that you're marching or whatever, but are you looking side to side or, that sort of thing?
Yeah, kind of doing one of those things where you're looking off to this side for a little bit, and then you're looking off to this side for a little bit, and then looking up because you described that ceiling that's like super spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
And still trying to kind of keep an ear out for the scratching and digging noise that was back behind us.
Okay. What are you doing, Killer Ash? How are you making your way through?
Again, doing my best not to stomp and keep from disturbing the dust as much as possible. Looking on the ground, as I said, I lost my sword, so I want some sort of other weapon if I can find one. And then kind of glances left and right as I pass the doors to see if I can see what's in there. I'm assuming big doors mean out, so I'm moving towards the big door.
Okay. As everybody, and how are you doing this, Leandra? There's quite a bit of dust. So if there was to be say a sword laying underneath a table or something like that, there would be dust. If it was laying out in the open, it would be covered by dust. You wouldn't be able to even see it. There's a good like where the as you pass one of the skeletons, you can see its bone dry rib has got a good 1.5 inches, almost 2 inches of dust settled onto it. So go ahead, Leandra.
I'm walking pretty slow and head swiveling, and,
okay.
I might poke at something if I see anything, but there's tables, right? You said
the table, and pretty much all of them are broken, and it doesn't look. Some of them look like they were broken, like you would expect to see broken tables in a bar fight, that sort of thing. And some of them appear to have been literally smashed, and that wouldn't be that concerning to you. But since you're actually paying attention to the tables, you realize that these tables are a good 8-inch timbers. And one of the tables in particular, about halfway into the room, literally the way it's been impacted, looks as if something solid slammed into it, chunked out the center of it, and then the table snapped and broke and gave way.
So it was something really pretty powerful that
right.
snapped that table.
Go ahead, everybody, and roll me a perception.
Hey, that's good.
That would be a 3.
16.
21.
21. Both Leandra and Killaresh, as you guys kind of enter and begin moving your way cautiously enough not to kick up.
You cut out again.
As you guys enter into the chamber and begin to make your way across the chamber, trying to be careful not to kick up dust and choke yourself out with it, like what apparently is happening to Sirith there. You begin to pick out strange and odd little things. You see a chunk of wood, both Sirith and Leandra, or not Sirith and Leandra, but Killaresh and Leandra, kind of laying off to your side. And it looks like it might be a plank or a bench or a piece of bench, except for the edges of it appear to be extremely rounded. It's probably about the size of a post. And it's sticking up, and you can see the bottom of it, and it looks like it's been broken. But it doesn't, as you take a closer look, as you get closer to it, appear to be a post. It appears to be a fashioned piece of wood. And you notice at the tip, that as it's coming up, you notice it appears to be iron capped. And it kind of comes in like this, comes down for about a foot or two, and then comes back out. And you notice grooves carved into it. It looks an awful lot like a handle, rather than a bench or a post or anything like that. And as you look over at that, your eye, Killaresh, goes down a little bit further. And you see yet another skeleton. This one looks very disturbing. Much larger than any dwarf you've ever seen. Larger than any human you've ever seen. Larger than any furball Goliath that you've seen. Because this rib cage is probably 5 feet in length. You can see broken ribs as if something had at some time impacted it. And you can see where one of the broken tables is at. You can see what appears to be an arm bone, because it actually sticks away from the ground level of dust, but it has dust built on it. And you realize you're looking at the skeleton of either a fell giant or some kind of other monstrous creature. And then things begin to form into the fact that there was indeed a battle in this room.
Well, let's hope we don't run into one of those guys. And I'm going to walk over to the handle and pick it up.
You walk over to the handle to pick it up. You wrap your hands around it, and your hands don't wrap all the way around it. They're probably about like this on it. And as you kind of lift it up out of the dust, you can literally see where it's broken off. Like there was probably another 2 or 3 foot section to it. And it's got a great weight to it, although after all the years, the wood is quite brittle and dry. It hasn't been taken care of. So it's lighter than what you might normally expect.
Well, that's disappointing, and I'm just going to continue towards that big door.
Okay.
Because I want out of here.
Okay. So what are the other two? What are you, Leandra and Sirith? What are you guys doing?
I'm still just slowly making my way towards that door.
Making your way across. So nobody's going to dodge off into the side rooms? Okay. So you guys continue through the hallway. You get over to where the big double doors are at. And like I said, the left-hand side one is closed. The right-hand side one's cocked partially open, and you can see the stone sealing this door. Or this door is probably about a good 2 feet in width. And you see these great bands of silver kind of crossing over it. You look up, and you kind of look up and expect to be like another rune or something like that, but you can actually see where the top area, it looks like somebody has come through and either hit it with something or scratched across it very, very roughly. You can kind of lean forward and you see the width of it, and you can see that nothing has disturbed this area for a great long time. Dust is built up, and darkness on the other side as the hallway continues on beyond this great hall that you're currently in.
I mean, this has to be the way out, right?
Yeah, sure.
All right, and I'm going to continue going.
You try to fit your way through it, and you can't quite get your way through it. It's not open that far. It's open maybe a little bit. You would actually have to grab the ring and pull it open.
I'm going to grab the ring and pull it open.
Make a strength check.
I'll help him.
Okay, make a strength check with advantage.
Yes. That is going to be a 20.
All right, you managed it. It takes a bit, even with the pair of you, and you hear like rusty hinges that are unseen, and you notice how on the side the stone's actually been carved and smoothed on, so that basically the door's inset over there, so it kind of recesses. So when it swings open, it finally kind of breaks loose, and it actually moves very, very smoothly. It swings open, dust swirls up into the corridor beyond, and you see another roughly 10-foot wide corridor, arched up ceilings continuing down. The stone on both sides finished smooth. You can see what it looks like. There are probably sconces along the wall, but no light. Nothing lights up or ignites as you make your way through and into this area. Go ahead and roll me a perception check.
Nope.
All right. So you move your way on and through?
Yes, please.
Yep. That's some very good craftsmanship. I'm proud of these dwarves.
Okay.
I was a little worried for a second there.
Cirith, you and Leandra coming behind Killer Ash. Both of you make me perception checks.
That's better. 18.
13.
13. Both of you notice that it's not a disturbance. Like I said, nothing has moved through here in centuries. But Killer Ash, whatever it is that's driving him, is just kind of beginning to blindly, and you guys get this feeling that he's beginning to kind of half blindly just move forward, not taking the time to analyze where you guys are at. And both of you notice spots where it looks like the dust is kind of doing these mounds. At kind of strange intervals, maybe a foot, probably about a foot apart. You, Cirith, notice right in the direction where Killer Ash is going, you notice a spike sticking up. That spike is probably a good solid 2 inches. And you notice something else mounded up in this area. And then it dawns on you that it appears to be a very large rib cage.
Lovely. Killer Ash, are you seeing this?
The fine workmanships, of course. The dwarves are known for that.
Hold up a second, and I'm actually going to point out one of these.
Okay, well,
dust.
As Killer Ash kind of slows down a little bit at your behest and probably looks around, are you going to actually stop when she talks to you, or are you just going to keep on trudging?
Yeah, I'll stop and talk to her.
As you stop, your eyes kind of fall to the ground because that's kind of where she's looking at, and you can also see Leandra looking that way. You notice these mounds, and somehow at this point you're about 2 or 3 feet into this. And you see these mounds, but from where you're standing, you're looking down and you can see bits of black iron sticking up. And you're walking quite literally with 1 foot here, a row of these iron spikes, and your other foot here, and then iron spikes, a foot, iron spikes. And as you look around, you see 2. You see a crumbled kind of skeleton over here that's not quite as big as the giant-sized one that's here, but the one that's over here also doesn't look to be dwarven in feature. It's too slender. It's not barreled out. But both of these creatures look like they were probably somehow impaled on these spikes.
Huh. Well, that's odd.
Very odd. Are these spikes like a defense mechanism in here, or is this something that got dropped when they were fighting?
I'm going to bend over and touch the side of one of the spikes, see if it's something that it's embedded in the ground.
Yeah, it's embedded in the ground. And as you touch it and kind of see how stable it is. You can form a picture in your head of these great sheafs of these spikes as somebody steps wrong, slamming up and into them as they go. As you kind of feel them around, though, you notice that there's a little bit of play as like they came up and you kind of look and you match up and you look up and you can actually see in the ceiling above you circles that match. So like this was sprung, they went up, slammed up through the steel, they, like in the formed holes, and then they came back down and then they stopped where they're at.
Huh.
Does it look like there's any more?
We should not come this way. And I'm going to start backing up, putting my feet right back where like my footprints are.
Okay. Go ahead and roll me a dexterity. Like doing acrobatics, we're gonna say. Just so that you match your feet and all that, you know.
That's a 7.
Back.
All right. Where are you going?
I just got to run down the hall for a quick second.
Okay, well, we'll wait till you get back. You always, man, she's taking some great times to skip away on me. She's breaking the momentum, man. I'm about to kill Killaresh.
No.
Well, no, because I thought his name
third time-
isn't Killaresh. Isn't that half orc for killing a rush?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, well there is. See?
I mean, typically it's to, it's referring to your enemies. You kill them in a rush. But
Well,
I
you're
guess this works.
aren't you guys my enemies? Isn't that the way this
I think
works?
that's how this game works, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I thought.
That's why you threw a, ancient red dragon at us at level 2.
Could have been far worse.
Could have been 2 ancient red dragons.
It could have been the fact that it could have been me not building a story. It could have been me just losing my mind and saying, you know what? I'm taking people today. Today
Yeah.
somebody dies.
A story point in there.
Just give us a second, folks. Once she gets back, we'll be back. Maybe.
Maybe. How many of those mounds did you say there were? Were there a lot of them, or just those?
Yeah,
two?
there were a lot of them. The hallway is roughly about 10 feet across. So there's one that comes up like barely off of the wall, and then basically every foot thereafter, or roughly a foot. So it covers the hallway, and you can see it extend down for about another 10 feet. And then it appears to be that there's no more. So like there was about a 10 foot by 10 foot area where these spikes, at some point back in the annals and the fogs of time, shot up, and it looks very much like they impaled these two figures, went up into the tubes, up into the ceiling above, and then slowly came back down. So it appears that there is no maybe like rocking mechanism or relocking mechanism, because when Killaresh, when you reached down, you could actually tell that there was a little bit of play in them, but it was an up and down play, not a side to side play.
Okay.
So you guys see Killaresh backing up, and you see him paying close attention to setting his backwards moving feet back into the exact same spots that he had gone before. But as he moves, his foot kind of clicks off of one of the spikes and comes down just a little bit to the side of where it should have been. And you all hear in this empty hallway Killaresh's foot make contact with the floor, displacing dust where his foot hadn't been before. And he continues moving backwards towards you.
Good job. Good
So
job.
I don't think we should go this way. That
Well-
seems like a bad idea.
Can we tell if there's anything else? Like, I mean, has it
So
been
you want to go back
sprung
through the door and
completely,
see if
or-
there's like side rooms or something?
Well, there were all the side rooms back there, but I figured big door out. So we can check the side rooms, and if there's nothing there, we can maybe try and make our way through here too. But I would rather not get impaled.
Same
That's
here.
not very fun. I already did that once today.
Okay.
Speaking of that, I'm going to take a moment and cast Cure Light Wounds on myself.
Okay. So everybody turns to go back
God
into the chamber that you guys were in the process of exiting out when Killer Rush decides, no, we're not going this way. So now it would appear that Cirith is now kind of in the lead with Leandra and then Killeresh, and you guys turn to go back into the hallway. Go ahead, and all three of you can go ahead and roll me a perception check as you make your way back into this chamber.
14.
12.
12.
4.
4.
Jeez.
You notice a very, very faint. So, okay, hold on. What'd you get, Cirith?
14.
Killeresh?
4.
Okay, man, get rid of those dice. Leandra?
12.
All right. So both Leandra and Cirith, you can see coming out of like the middle doorway on what is now the left-hand side, a very, very, very faint, light blue glow begin to emanate from the room and begin to grow brighter and stronger with each passing second.
Wow.
Didn't notice that before, and I'm going to cautiously walk over towards it.
Okay. You cautiously kind of make your way. What are you doing, Leandra?
I'm cautiously also going that way.
All right.
Probably behind her.
All right. Killer Ash, you notice both Cirith and Leandra kind of go off to the left-hand side. And as they kind of go off to the left-hand side, over on the right-hand side, maybe about 10 feet in the room, probably between two of the doors, you see at first you just think it's like something like another skeleton or something like that in the dust. But as you come up to it, let me pull my notes up here to make sure I'm getting this the right way. I actually wrote this stuff, so I should probably know what's going on here. As you kind of take a closer look, it has kind of a rounded top to it, and it looks very much like a chest.
Ooh. I'm going to bend down and open that chest.
Oh, damn.
So these guys are making their way off to the left. You don't see the glow, but your eyes are drawn over towards this chest shape. And you hear, coming from that area, like the shifting slide of muted coin coming from over by the chest.
I'm going to hustle a little bit quicker. I don't want to lose any of these coins in the dust.
All right. The two of you guys make your way over to where that blue glow. And with each of your steps, it grows more and more vibrant. But it has this eeriness to it. And Cirith, as you get to it, you stop dead about a foot from it as this figure comes out of that side room. And what you see is this barrel-chested dwarf. And you would think, you expect to kind of see a warrior and all that. And what you see is first one, then another, picks on their shoulder would appear to be miners. You can see fashioned to these metal helmets would appear to be the lights that a miner would use in dark areas, that sort of thing. And they're all dressed in work attire. You do see that they have like hand axes and stuff on them, but they're all carrying picks, buckets, other sorts of things. And the five of them kind of come out of this room, turn, and make their way back the way you guys had come, out to where the rails were at. The light disappears.
So, we have ghosty dwarves.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
There was no notice at all of anything, just ghostly. apparition.
And I
Just
completely
did.
missed that.
Yep, you completely missed that. You're making your way over towards this chest. And as you get a little bit closer, you realize that the chest has got very little dust on it. But it is indeed a chest. And you can actually see where there's a lock piece on it. And the lock piece looks like it's been opened and is kind of hanging to the side. And as your foot hits the ground, you hear again that kind of shimmering slide of coins. The chest itself is probably maybe 2.5 feet wide, rising up from the floor by about another 2.5 feet at the top of the thing, and it's probably about another good 2 feet. It's a good trunk-sized chest for sure.
All right. Well, since I'm not going to get paid now, since I'm sure the inn is gone, I'm going to try and open this chest. I want to get paid.
Okay. As you reach down and your hand, are you going to kind of go for like the lock?
Yeah, I mean, you said it looks like it's been open, but still kind of hooked through.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm going to try and, pop that off.
All right. As you reach down and your hand goes for the lock, you realize far too late your mistake.
It's a mimic, isn't it?
As the trunk, this chest, this pod-like thing erupts forward out of the chest, slamming towards you. Does Killer Ash make any sound upon seeing this?
That's not a chest.
Oh Lord.
Ooh, that's nasty.
Oh, no. He's not gonna
I'm down
die
again,
here.
aren't I?
This it almost looks like a tongue, and you see as these nasty teeth form an open mouth, and this tongue-like thing comes out and slams. It almost looks like one of those chameleons you see like a National Geographic where the tongue unfurls and snaps out at its prey. And you see these claws, not these claws, but these teeth as the chest opens up, and you see these eyes just above that, like 5 or 6 of them just snap open. You can see this golden yellow oranges eyes inside, kind of flickering with a madness as this thing sticks and slams into you, wrapping around your body. Okay, for 11 points of damage.
Cool, I'm down again.
Okay. The tongue, you guys hear this exclamation come out of Killer Ash. Do you guys spin and turn around?
Yes.
Okay, as you spin and turn around, your eyes snap wide in horror as you see this giant chest. Its mouth, yes, its mouth opened up. Great fangs coming out from this purplish dark mouth inside. You see this great tongue wrapped around Killer Ash's body. You can see the sticky adhesive substance around where there's at, and you can see these eyes. Now you can actually see that there's 6 eyes. The front 4 are fixed on Killer Ash, and the other 2 are darting around. The one closest to you actually fixates on the pair of you as it begins to pull Killer Ash in towards the mouth.
Oh, here we go again.
The chest the chest looks to be maybe 3 feet high or so, but you can see that parts of the chest, like on the outside of it, are kind of beginning to bubble, as if it's like looking like it's shifting its shape a little bit.
That's not good.
You guys gonna kind of charge over there and try to save Killer Ash yet again?
Yep, whipping out my hand axe and rushing over.
All right, so at this point, I'm gonna need initiative.
Awesome.
Not kidding. Not kidding. That's the way my dice is rolling. That's a 2.
So you guys might be able to save me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you might be able to. You guys might actually make it over there. So
I
seriously.
got a 15.
All right. So Cirrus got a 15. Leandro, what'd you get?
9.
9. All right. So, Sirith, you cross the ground at a rapid rate of speed. Once again, it seems that Kilaresh, unthinking, is just randomly reaching out to things. He's not paying attention to his surroundings. For somebody who's a storyteller, growing up, most storytellers that you guys would ever know are finicky about the details. Even if they elaborate those details, like in Legends, it starts at a point that they pay very close attention to. This storyteller, this bard, doesn't pay attention to the finer details because it seems he's got himself tangled up in this sticky, shape-shifting, like globular thing. It's beginning to pull away from what you can now see behind it is a trunk on the ground. It's now kind of beginning to kind of flatten itself up as it rises up, but it has this great like maw of teeth, this tongue wrapped around Kilaresh, pulling Kilaresh in, the teeth open, and you can see eyes sprouting above the teeth as it's going to apparently eat him. But Sirith, you managed to in a few bounds, you close the gap on it. You get within about 10 feet. What are you going to do? You cannot close to within melee distance.
Oh, that sucks.
Could this be 2 in a week?
Can I exchange for my longbow then? I mean,
We can say that when you were bounding over there, you realized that you weren't going to get close enough, so you resheath your sword and go to pull out your bow. However, I need you to make me a dexterity. I want to see if you fumble your bow.
That would be a 16.
No, you don't. And once again, like when you were up far higher in the sewers, you have this ability with your bow to grab out your bow with a fluid motion, and at the same time you're pulling an arrow and knocking it. So you're kind of, you could actually, there's actually a broken spot where one of the tables was broken and is like this. So you could actually run up and plant on that and kind of shoot down at the creature.
Sounds like a good idea.
Okay, so go ahead and roll me an attack.
Wow. Okay, so 19 plus 3 is a 22. I think that hits.
Yeah, that indeed does hit.
And we're going to do 4 plus 1, so 5 points of damage.
5 points of damage. Your arrow slams into this rubbery looking now creature, and your arrow goes right through it. The creature doesn't really react whatsoever to what little bit of damage you did to it, and you notice that it pulls Kilarath closer in. Leandra.
Okay, she hit it, but it didn't really feel the damage?
Yeah, it didn't react. Its eyes, like the one eye is still looking that direction. The other one's flicking around, but those 4 central ones are all, the bigger ones are all focused in on Kilarash.
Okay, well, still it kind of doesn't matter because I saw she couldn't quite get to it, so I'm thinking I'm not going to be able to quite get to it either.
But you do have a bonus action to dash as a rogue.
Yeah, so you technically could get there.
Yes. Oh, okay. I was going to use it to hide, but if I could hide. Well, let's see. Okay. But I will do that. I will dash since it looked like her didn't do any damage. Because I was going to use my short bow and I'm like, crap. I don't know if that's going to work. So I will try to dash to him and use the rapier and try to pull him I want to try to stab the thing and try to see if I can get him out of there too. I don't know if I can do all that at once, but
Well, you can get there and you can attack.
Okay. I will stab it with the rapier.
Okay,
Whoa.
roll your attack, please.
Oops. Okay, that's 22.
22. Yeah, you stick it with your rapier. Your rapier slides into its kind of rubbery, kind of sticky flesh.
Where's the 8? D8, right? Damage. Oh, good. 7, 9, 10, 11 plus sneak attack. 4. 15.
15. That seems to get its attention as you kind of come up and you pierce it with your rapier. Half of its eyes now focus and snap and look at you, and you hear this kind of bubbling sound from down in its gullet. But enough eyes are still focused on Killerash, and it pulls it in, and you see the teeth come out to snap onto Killerash's body. Oh.
Was that a nat 20?
That was a nat 20, Killerash.
All right. Was that 2 failures?
That's 2 failures.
All right.
Ouch.
He's always in peril. What's going on with this?
We come back.
That's why I knew this was a mimic too.
I need a death save from you, Killerash.
11.
Okay, so you got one. You got one. This creature seems to be fully focused on its lunch, and you see these teeth as it pulls. The tongue twists a little bit, so it takes Killerash and tips it kind of to the side. The teeth snap in. You hear Killerash's flesh rend, and as the teeth kind of bite in and they kind of do like a shake bit and pull away, you actually see a chunk of Killerash's side pull away towards its mouth.
Back to
Cirith. Yep, back to Cirith.
Okay. Shooting this sucker again.
Listen, I knew it was a mimic when you said there was less dust, but I was like, Killerash wouldn't know.
That was a 17 to hit.
So you doing your bow again, or you doing a weapon?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
doing the bow again.
Okay.
That would be a 7 plus 1, so 8 points of damage.
8 points of damage. Again, you hear this guttural snarl come up and out of it. And as the meat off of Killerash is pulled towards it, you see Killerash kind of hanging there for just a second. You notice underneath where its bottom jaw is out, there's another, like a pseudopod, kind of a tongue-like thing, and it's almost holding Killerash like it's like if you ever taken a piece of pizza and held it in your hand and kind of fed it in. That's what this thing is now doing with Killerash. It's setting up to basically eat Killerash like a big giant orcish or half orcish piece of pizza. It reacts to your pain. You can see a couple wounds now on its fleshy, flabby, kind of rubbery looking sticky body. But it is very much intent on devouring its meal. Leandra.
Okay, I guess you can't tell how damaged it is. I'm gonna rapier it. Rapier? That doesn't sound very good when you say it that way.
You're gonna poke it with your pokey.
I'm gonna poke it with my poker. Which 16.
16. Yes, that is enough. Again, you sink your rapier into its rubbery, sticky flesh.
And 2 damage. I'm gonna make sure it does. 9 and a sneak attack. 11.
Again, it reacts, but you see, and you get this image when you're looking at it. Matter of fact, both Cirith and Leandra, sorry, go ahead and roll me insight checks.
Oh, dang it.
Ooh, that's actually pretty good. 17.
10.
Cirith, you get the distinct feeling by the way this thing's eyes are beginning to move, the way it's kind of trembling a little bit, that it's rushed. It's afraid. It's like it's going to try and hurry, and hurry is exactly what it's doing, because its teeth gnash out again at Killaresh, looking to take a big, giant, meaty bite out of its half-orc pizza piece.
You
Its
did not
teeth
do that again.
sink into Killaresh. You see it shake its mouth and it rends out a giant piece. And you see the innards from Killaresh spill out onto the floor as this thing rips enough of Killaresh to where Killaresh begins to fold over that pseudopod kind of platform that the thing's created. You see Killaresh's body lean back, his head looking back at you, his eyes flicking open in surprise. You think for just a brief second, his mouth shifts, a last breath escaping out of his lungs. You think you hear Killaresh say, "That's odd," as his eyes roll back into his head. Leandra, Cirith, you were standing there with this creature that still looks like, even though it's kind of stretched out and it's holding on to Killaresh, it still has parts of it that look like they're like as if the chest like came apart and was flattened. So parts of it still look like banded metal and the chest type wood and all of that. But you can see that it's very aware of you guys. And the pseudopod lets Killarath go. And Killarath's body falls to the ground in a clump, a sick, wet clump mixing with the disturbed dust and all that. You hear this kind of wet, meaty hit the ground. And Killaresh is no more.
Okay, now I'm pissed. So she's gonna shoulder her bow, whip out her longsword, like turning it upside down so that she's got both hands on it and it's going down, and she's gonna run up and just brr.
Well, you're actually up on the edge of the table.
So I can like jump down.
Yeah,
on
you can kind of pull a bear kill out of this.
Yeah, I'll do that.
All right.
There you go.
That would be a longsword 15.
15, yes, easily. You drive a longsword down and through it.
That would be a 7 for damage.
7 for damage. The thing recoils for the first time from your strike, and your sword peels and slices through it, and you see this great gash pour out of its body, and this purplish ichor. You would think it's blood, but you can't quite. These guys, sorry, I gotta quit watching chat. It looks like blood, but it's extremely sticky, and it kind of rolls and kind of. You remember, like back when you were a kid, and you get those garbage cans filled with that slime, and when it would roll off of something, it would leave that trail of goo. That's what you're kind of seeing. So it's kind of gooey, sticky blood, exactly. And its eyes, all of them, snap towards you. Its mouth rears open. Leandra, the thing is not paying attention to you one bit. You can see several wounds now in it, including this brand new gash that's opened up from Cirith's attack. As you see Cirith launch off of the edge of the table and drive her sword down and then rend it out. What are you going to do?
It's still moving though.
Oh yeah, it's still very much alive, and it's now focused on Cirith.
Cirith.
We'll save the 100% for next week.
Is he dead?
Oh
or-
yeah, there's no doubting. Half
Yeah,
of the
he's pretty much
midsection
had his
of
guts ripped
Killerish is now in this creature's gullet.
All right. Well, I guess I just can only do some more poking.
It's called revenge. Just
Yeah.
kill it.
Yep. That's it. Like it's just
Or
kinda pissed
avenging,
us
I
off.
guess you could say.
avenging angel. Let's see. Okay, yeah, that should hit. 20. 20.
Yes,
20 to hit.
yes, that hits.
Get the right damn dice here.
You need to paint that thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna paint it.
9 damage total with sneak attack.
9 damage total with sneak attack. You see 2 of the eyes kind of roll back into their sockets. You can see these puncture wounds you've put into it begin to seep out this sticky purple ichory kind of blood as it's sticky, like almost like thick snot rolling down its body. But it has... Yeah,
Oh, can I also offhand it with a dagger?
sure. It's not focused on you. It's wholly focused on Cirith.
So try that. 15.
15, yeah. You managed to sink a dagger into the creature.
Then 6.
6. Oh. The creature, its eyes focused, a couple more of its eyes go blank, but there's these 2 central eyes, the biggest of the 6, that are looking right at you, Cirith. You can see all of these wounds on this creature, and almost in a defiant manner, its mouth opens up, and this giant tongue-like pod thing snaps out towards you. Come on, third 20. The tongue slams into you and wraps around your body. Grappling into you, it does 5 points of impact, 5 points of bludgeoning damage as you feel your chest kind of push in and it wraps itself around you, and you feel this weaker than you thought it would be, but it's still strong as it begins to pull you towards it, and you see that mouth open even wider in a great giant biting motion. You have your arms wrapped by this sticky substance as it binds you into it. You can go ahead and give me a... Go ahead and give me a dexterity at disadvantage. Yeah.
$12.
So close. And you're pulled towards this gaping, yawning mouth. Leandra, you see this happen. You can see that the only part of this thing that is actually out, you can actually see it's maintaining its trunk kind of bottom part of it as kind of the bottom part of the chest. But you can see that it's beginning to weaken greatly as it's pulling Cirith forward. And it seems that your new friends are all going to be devoured by this creature unless you do something. Or maybe even you'll be devoured. What are you going to do?
I'm going to make like a war yell and take the rapier and try to stab it in its eye.
All right.
One of those eyes. There's only like 2 left, right?
Yep.
16. 16. 11 total damage.
So you go ahead and describe to me exactly how you're finishing this thing's existence.
She was definitely in the vengeance mode and went with the rapier, leaping in the air, straight into the eye. Like those last eyes that had any focus at all, just buried it.
Right.
And
So-
stirred it around a little bit.
Out of the corner of your eye, Sirith, you see Leandra leap into the air with her rapier. You've seen her use the rapier, and normally it's in this graceful, fluid kind of, motion like a
How a
duelist.
rapier's supposed to
Right,
use.
like as a duelist. You can see this wildness in her eyes, her hair flying about, and this rage crossing over her face as she launches into the air with this rapier up and slams the rapier down into this thing's eye socket, down piercing the eye. You feel the tongue-like membrane release you, and you both see this thing fall away from this very old, very long forgotten chest. And as it slides off, Leandra's not done, because you see her dagger flick into the other hand, and she takes the other eye, riding this creature down in this kind of pumping double stab motion. Just pumping her fists up and down until this thing is no longer moving. The membrane comes off of you, and she's still poking at this thing. She's lost her mind. She begins to gurgle and scream out in anger and rage, almost barbaric in a way, as she's just stabbing at this thing. Killaresh lays on the ground off to the side, his body almost torn completely in half. You can see multiple bite marks where this thing bit in and tore him apart. Life long gone out of the half-orc's eyes. Your friend passed, gone on to the Summerland. The two of you are left in this quiet, silent room. And as you look down at this creature and it pulls away from this chest, you realize that this chest is, the lid's kind of cocked and fell off to the side, released from this body, from the body of this creature. And the creature kind of goes down and lays flat across the ground. And your eyes, Sirith, look into the trunk, into the chest. And you see sticking out, kind of cocked off to the side. Remember, the chest is about yay wide. It's about 2.5 feet, maybe 3 feet. You see a box inside there cocked to the side. And you notice that there's these little mounds in there. And it appears that there's some long forgotten treasure inside here.
Well,
Leandra.
first I'm gonna-
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I'm gonna yell out to Lee because she didn't give me the name Leandra. She just said Lee. Be like, Lee, you can stop stabbing it now. It's dead.
Give me a perception
you.
check, Leandra.
Perception. 13.
You hear this voice like get muddled up and lost. You think you hear the word Lee, but you're gone. You are in such a furor and a rage that this swirling mass of color and anger and strangely, even though you've just met him, a little bit of like pain and that forlorn feeling just swallows the name up, and it doesn't quite register as you just sit there. Eventually you see her drop to her knees in a pile of sticky goo as she just keeps hammering. You see her rapier tip beginning to flex and bend. You see and you can hear the dagger just beginning to chink and chunk away at stone as she's literally thrown her head back and she's just roaring into the air, her eyes wide, just slamming repeated blows down onto this creature that is now long dead.
Oh boy.
You get the distinct feeling maybe that if you were to pull her away from the creature and get her the hell away
Yeah,
from it.
I'm trying to think of how to approach it. So I'm gonna approach her from behind
Okay.
and like do one of those grabs so that I get like around her shoulders and her arm kind of close to the elbows. That way, as she's trying to do this,
Okay, so you're just kind of going she's going off on it. Go ahead and roll me in athletics to see if you can grapple this wailing beast. I mean, you can see like her forearm muscles are bulging.
my
She's like
friend.
Popeye. Yeah, she just lost
You
her
said
shit
athletics?
completely. Yeah,
Little
athletics.
small blonde chick.
that would be a 20.
Was that a natural 20?
No, that was a 15 plus 5.
Okay, yeah, you Leandra is completely gone, and all you feel, Leandra, is something kind of wrap around you and jerk you away from your target. And as you pull her back, Cirith, are you going to continue to try to stab the thing, Leandra?
She pulls me off. No, I'll take like a deep breath and be like,
Okay.
come back to my senses
Yep.
and maybe do a hair flip.
You see Leandra's eyes kind of come back into focus as you pull her away from this creature, and you both kind of collapse, exhausted in the center of this room. It's obviously dwarven. You remember seeing the ghosts of the miners going through, dust everywhere. You can tell that there was another battle that happened in this very room a long time ago. And Cirith, you remember that there are some long forgotten treasures in that chest. But for now, you hold on to your only friend. The only
I'm gonna be
person.
sitting there, kind of like just rocking her with my head next to hers, being like, "It's okay, it's okay, it's dead. Thank you for killing the thing that killed Killaresh." And just kind of trying to get her to calm down and breathe.
And both of your sets of eyes drop and indeed focus on Killaresh's dead form. And a moment passes where there's a calm in the room. It's like the air settles. And then you hear this chirping little squeak. And then another chirping little squeak. As 3, then 4 skinny, scrawny, emaciated rats come around the corner of one of the doors and begin to make their way to the fresh meat laying on the floor that is Killaresh.
Get away from him.
Is there? Oh, I've got a torch in my backpack. Well, do I have? Yeah. Hopefully, I had my pack with me.
Okay.
Through all of the falling and whatnot. I'm gonna pull out a torch and do the reach to the blaze and light that sucker up, and like be swinging that at the rats. Like, go away.
Yeah.
As long if they're going towards the mimic, that's fine. But if they're going towards Killaresh, they're getting a torch in the face.
All right. You quickly manage to drive him off, and the last rat casts this glance over its shoulder as it sinks back into the room, probably to eat on some long rotten whatever that might be down here, bugs and things like that. Gives you this look, kind of like he's flipping you the middle finger with his eye as he ditches back into the darkness. But you've saved Killaresh's body. Again, you slump down right next to your compatriot's body. Maybe a sob escaping from you. The two of you alone, lost in this long forgotten dwarven hall, a mining operation, no idea where to go. You know that getting Killaresh out of here is probably not going to happen. So until next week, I will leave these two to figure out a proper burial for the brave, maybe not most observant half-orc bard ever, but certainly one of the oddest. We will close this chapter, this episode,
Odd.
with Cirith and Leandra. During this next week, please level your characters to level 3 for me. Connor, if you wish to continue putting victims in front of me, please come up with a character concept. Send me any ideas you have and we'll discuss it and we'll get you something going for next Sunday for episode 4 of Adventure Weekly. I hope everybody out there enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed it. I had a blast. I'd like to thank once again Connor, Jens. Again, she stepped in again. Like if you didn't know, she stepped in when we needed a player last week, and now she's officially part of the Forged team. Those shirts I was talking about during our last night that Connor wasn't privy to, I think we're going to probably end up getting one and sending it off to Jens when we get them made. There's a custom shirt for members of the team. And of course, my wonderful wife, Jeannie, who without her, this would not be happening. She's the one that allows me to do this and has given me the time to do this. I'd like to say thank you to all of our wonderful viewers who came and checked us out today. Again, there will be no stream tomorrow. I've fallen behind a little bit. I've ran 7 games this week. And I need to take a break, get some work done. We'll be back on Tuesday with DM's Design at 8 p.m. Eastern. Wednesday, DM's Design at 8 p.m. Eastern. Friday, DM's Design at 8 p.m. Eastern. On one of those 3 days, or even on Thursday afternoon, pay attention. Twitter or Discord, because I will be announcing another pop-up game that will be 2 to 4 hours long. Don't know which day, don't know which time, but I will be making that announcement. And then next Saturday, noon Eastern, 10 o'clock Mountain, 11 Central, 9 Pacific. A Walk Beyond, where 5 moderators from Dungeons and Dragons Beyond, or D&D Beyond, step into my world. I got your asses. I got your asses. Next Saturday night. Also next Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Episode 8 of The Long Road. We will not have any more tech issues. We will actually be doing it again in-house. And then back here, 5:30 p.m. next Sunday for episode 4 of Adventure Weekly. Thank you all for coming and hanging out. Super appreciate it. Once again, I've been your DM, Charles. That's been Connor. That's been Jens. That's been Jeannie. Peace. Take care, and see you guys on Tuesday. Bye-bye.